Hello, my friends. My name is Alex, and I am a historian. I am a traditional military historian, education wise, and that tended to lean me towards uh, anything antiquity, Roman Empire, Greeks, Persia, all that fun stuff. However, I also, of course, studied World War II in school, as every military historian does, because it is the greatest and grandest of conflicts. And long story short, after a short stench of teaching, I got onto Quora, started writing, and then got into debunking Holocaust denialism. And then that put me on a half decade basically research project into Holocaust denial in the modern age. What it looks like, how it acts, the arguments they put forward, and all that super fun, frankly, horrible, disgusting stuff. So I think, when I tell a lot of people, and for those that don't know, I originally made a foray. This is a side note. I made a foray into YouTube years and years ago, and it was ill advised because I tried to kind of make like edited videos, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and they were awful. And so these are all going to be a lot more freeform. There's no script, there's no editing. It's just I'm talking into a mic, and then after this, there's going to be a four-part lecture series on the Holocaust, what happened, the A, B, C, D, E of it, and then after that, hopefully by then I'll have learned. I'm taking like an online course on video editing. Hopefully by then I'll have learned what to do and how to edit a video, and then I can start debunking Holocaust claims one by one. But in this video, I just want to explain to people what Holocaust denialism is. So, in its broadest sense, Holocaust denialism or Holocaust denial is an attempt to distort, disprove, manipulate, or alter proven facts of the Holocaust without any evidence. And that's a big key part, is the with no evidence, because historians come around all the time and will say, I think it was 5.2 million that got killed. Hitler was this involved, or was Himmler that did this, or there's always disagreements, there's documents, there is disagreement within the historical community, and you can absolutely question the Holocaust. You just have to, one, understand the answer, and what a lot of people say is you can't question the Holocaust. What they mean is, why can't I present this debunked, fake, fraudulent document and use it to try to say that no one ever died and spread anti-Semitism throughout Europe? That's unfair. They're not questioning anything. They're just spreading propaganda. You can absolutely have questions about the Holocaust. I have had thousands of people on Quora ask me questions about the Holocaust, and comment and message me, and I'll always have an answer for them, because I'm absolutely fine if you have questions about it. I want you to have questions, even if that question is, how do we know what happened? How do we know this many people died? That's totally fine. So that's a part of Holocaust analysis, again, an attempt to distort, disprove, manipulate, or alter the facts of the Holocaust. And a big thing missing in Holocaust denialism is their lack of historiography. And what historiography it's the writing of history based on a critical examination of sources, I can't say that word, authentication of materials, and kind of combining that into a narrative that will hold up to scrutiny from other historians. So you take 20 sources, you take out the information from them, you verify how authentic this source is versus this source. Well, this guy was kind of biased. He was working for the emperor. This guy seems to have the opposite bias and hated the emperor. So then where's kind of the middle, where this guy seemed to have no involvement, so let's kind of combine all this. Here's this point of view. And then you kind of form that all into a narrative. And that's what historiography is. And Holocaust deniers just don't do any of that. They to say they cherry pick would be quite charitable on my behalf. So With that, we get into types of Holocaust denial. And the first form of Holocaust denial is what I call gross denial. And gross denial is extremist, outright denial. And funny enough, historically speaking, this was the first type of denial. It came about right after World War II. And what happened is stories of the Holocaust leaked to the press, and people just weren't buying it. They had gone through World War One. There had been a lot of anti-German propaganda in that time, and so they saw this as just more anti-German propaganda. But then the testimony came in and the pictures came in, and slowly but surely it became clear that the Holocaust had indeed happened, and Holocaust now went away. Then it kind of spurs back up with a few wild people. Ernst Zundel is one I'll name. I'm not going to name names of many Holocaust deniers. And I've gotten so good at understanding it that when someone makes an argument and uses like particular verbiage, I can be like, oh, you read this guy. Oh, you read that guy. Because there's patterns with every fake writer, propagandist, the talking head of the community, and you can understand where someone's coming from by the language that they use. So, anyway, so gross denial was first practiced by Zundel, who was a Canadian Holocaust denier, and this was the loosest form of Holocaust denialism. It was weird. It was kind of an attempt to gain media attention, it felt like, more than anything. They had pamphlets, they had some organizational structure, but not a ton. And they mostly just fed on attention from far right neo nationalist groups. I guess I'm not sure what's allowed on YouTube, so I don't know how much I need to censor myself, but kind of hard to given the content we're talking about. But today it takes the more extreme position. It takes because you have to understand Holocaust deniers can't deny everything, right? The camps are still standing. Clearly, people died. We have pictures of the bodies of the executions. Like something happened. So how much of it are you going to deny, right? Are you going to say just the stuff in that photos and those few camps is the reality, right? Are you going to say 300,000 people died of typhus and 10,000 were executed due to being partisans and just leave it there, right? Because that's what some of the photos bear out. This is the hardest position to take because it's very, very easy to disprove, and these people typically look like idiots pretty quick. Most of them have seen what they think is a document called the Red Cross document, which is not at all from the Red Cross, and it's actually fabricated. But still, it's the extreme position, it's the uncommon position. The more common position is what I call the revisionist position. So Holocaust deniers in the modern age kind of took a look and decided that the whole Holocaust denial thing was not working in their favor. They needed a rebrand, right? When you heard Holocaust denial, you were immediately kind of like, oh, I don't like that. So they started to call themselves Holocaust revisionists. And this was a very clever ploy to make themselves seem more academic, more logical, more reasonable. And sorry, you'll have to excuse me. I had stuff wrong with my brain. I'm not going to get into my private health details, but it affected my coordination and speech centers, and I've gained most of them back, but I still slur and just sometimes say the absolute wrong words. So when I do, that's why. Anyway, so this is revisionist denial. This is the most common form of denial today. So they usually agree to large parts of the Holocaust. They'll agree that there was the mobile killing squads. They'll agree that there were extermination camps. They will agree to a whole lot, but they will stop short of agreeing to everything, right? So they'll say, yeah, there was some stuff that happened against Jewish people and it was bad and 3 million Jews died. Now, that is not what is bared out in evidence, and they still will deny, say, the gas chambers at Auschwitz, or they may deny the extermination camps, not Auschwitz, or they pick and choose what to deny, but they don't deny everything. And this is because this is a much easier position to defend. There is a lot of documentary proof. There's a lot of photos, there's a lot of documents, there's a lot of confessions, there's a lot of testimony. There is more evidence for the Holocaust than there is for the U.S. Civil War. It's quite extraordinary. It's as proven as World War II. So it's hard to just outright say it didn't happen, but you can poke holes and say, well, there was Treblinka, there was Belzec, but Auschwitz was fake, or Treblinka was a way station. They pick and choose what to accept, what to deny, and they take what they see as a logical and reasonable position of, yes, stuff happened and 1.5 million Jewish people were killed. In addition to, they never really bring up the Romani or the disabled. They make no attempt to dispute it, and that's because I'll get into that in a moment. Anyway, so that's the most common type of denial we see today. That's the denial that spreads online. That is when you see the wooden doors, the Prussian blue, any of this stuff. That's from that. And then we have the last form, which I call light denial. Light denial is someone who really mostly agrees with the Holocaust, but is still engaging in Holocaust denial. My famous example would be Candace Owens, who said Joseph Mengele was weird propaganda. Joseph Mengele was very real. I've interviewed victims of Mengele. I've studied Mengele. He most certainly was not fake. It was not bizarre propaganda. He was a real person, and he did what they say he did. He was an awful, awful man, and I hate every inch of his existence. And so what they'll do is they'll kind of pick and choose. Like, well, it wasn't quite this brutal. Well, maybe the numbers were a bit exaggerated. And it's not really meant to get you to say, like, oh, we're totally wrong, but just to sow some seeds of doubt. And typically this comes with a nice helping of just anti-Semitism. And that gets us to the motivations of Holocaust denialism. And I have to take a drink of coffee because this is tiring. So what are the motivations of it? Why do they do this? And on the surface, it's pretty obvious. They love Jews. On the surface of it, it's pretty simple. They love Hitler and they hate Jews, right? They want to make Hitler look good. They want to make Jews look bad. Jews faked the Holocaust, therefore evil, therefore hate Jews. Hitler didn't do the Holocaust, therefore not so bad. That's the basic sense, right? However, I think it actually goes deeper than that, because here are some interesting things, at least things I find interesting. Number one, Holocaust deniers don't really argue much about the Holocaust. They agree that millions of POWs were slaughtered and starved to death in camps. They agree that there was a genocide of disabled people. They even agree the Romani people were genocided, or endured a genocide and were put through the very same extermination camps as Jewish people were. They just focus on the Jewish aspect of the Holocaust and of Nazi atrocities in general. If you look at the wide spectrum of Nazi atrocities, you can see some 20, perhaps 25 million civilians were killed. And of them, a certain amount died in the Holocaust, and a certain amount died in bombing and famine and siege and just massacres and all sorts of brutal stuff. And sorry, there's a truck driving by in front of my house. There was an ambulance earlier as well. Anyway, so that, my theory, and then the second interesting point is that they don't apply this extreme scrutiny where I can provide them a list of 84,000 people who survived Auschwitz II. And all of these people saw the selection process, the gas chambers, the everything. And they can somehow say that all 84,000 people are lying, right? But then they don't do this with Aurelian, Emperor Aurelian or Emperor Augustus. When I'm like, yeah, Emperor Augustus, I've got like a thing on a wall, and then I've got like 4 books that mention him that have been translations of translations of translations of translations, right? And that's my proof for him. But they don't say there's no Augustus. They don't say there's no World War I. They don't say there other genocides didn't happen. They don't say there was no Middle Ages. They don't say anything. They just focus on the Holocaust, which is weird because if you're going to apply this insane scrutiny, like unless we have photographic video evidence of the Holocaust taking place and then confessions from the people where there's 27 unbiased witnesses to ensure that person was not coerced in any way, shape, or form, then it was fake. It's this insane level of like weird mental gymnastics where the sky is red and where rocks are soft that they use to try to paint something that very clearly happened as not having happened. And it's insane. So what I think is that Holocaust deniers are cowardly Nazis. I think they really do just love Hitler and they know that the Holocaust happened. But that's a hard position to defend. It's a harder position to spread. If you want to go on X or Twitter or whatever the kids are using these days and spread your political position, if that position is Hitler was good, let's do that again, you're not going to get a lot of followers because that's a stupid position. But if you say, hey, historians, academics, cultural woke Marxists, because all academics, despite me being a moderate right wing individual with years of writing right wing content as proof of that, I'm still a woke leftist, They have no idea how academia works. None of these people are from academia, but still, all academics are woke leftists. And did you know they also lied about the Holocaust? And actually, only 2 million Jews died, and we have no da, and then it goes on and on. And most people see that for what it is. They're like, that person is trying to attack Jewish people. However, the conspiracy brained among us, the people that are likely to fall for the QAnon stuff, for the other bad, wrong, stupid conspiracy theories, the flat earther types, they'll hear that and go, this is interesting. I'm going to dig into this more. And by dig into it, they don't go to like actual history books or they don't ask a scholar or they don't dig into the foundational texts of the Holocaust that kind of take all of the endless source documents and kind of combine them. They go on WordPress or whatever weird website, and then they just read what other more extreme Holocaust deniers say. And they go from maybe the Holocaust was exaggerated by lying historians to I hate all Jews. And that's always how this process happens. And that is a much easier position for deniers to defend. Because by doing this, they have the same effect. They make Hitler look better, they make Jews look worse, and they never have to out loud say that their position is the Holocaust was good and Hitler was good too. They never have to speak that stupidity with their mouth. They can instead turn their whole argument to something about the Holocaust and trying to disprove a very proven event wrong in an attempt to spread a political philosophy that has already been debunked, despised, and defeated. Regardless, that's why we have to combat it. When Holocaust denial first emerged, when gross denial emerged in the 1970s with Zindel, the position of most historians, of all historians really, was just to not engage. Because there's no debate. There's no two sides. We're not having a discussion about this. There's not two positions to take. The Holocaust happened. There's not a second, well, maybe it didn't position with any validity. Now, you can argue aspects of the Holocaust, but you cannot say that it did not happen. That is insane. So, do not engage. Do not debate. There's nothing worth debating. And I think that was a good policy. However, we live in the internet age now. And someone can post a picture of a wooden door, and say, hey, that was the door to the gas chamber. Explain to me how a gas chamber works with the wooden door. And 300,000 people see that. And if just 1% of those people kind of buy in, that's 3,000 new Holocaust deniers on one X post from a hardened neo Nazi. And really, the wooden door was not a door to the gas chamber. It's a post-war installation. It isn't. It's a long story. It's something I'll get into at some point. But it was not the door to the gas chamber, and it's nothing. But since academics don't engage, that just goes unchallenged. And so people can either do research and figure it out, and they may figure it out, they may not. Who's got time for that? Or they move on with their lives, or they see that and they buy in. And so that's the goal of this. I want to first educate people on the Holocaust because I think our school system does a bad job. And I think YouTube does a bad job. And it's funny because YouTube goes into all sorts of violent parts of history, of all, Vlad the Impaler and brutal battles. And that's very popular content. But there's just nothing on the Holocaust. Almost, there's some stuff, but it's very, very little by comparison, which is weird to me. So hopefully that will be a good basis for people to kind of understand at least the broad strokes of how the Holocaust happened. How did it happen, and what specifically transpired? And then from there, I'm going to take all of those stupid arguments the Holocaust deniers post, and one by one, I'm going to debunk them, and I'm going to make them look stupid. So those are the future plans. And the lecture series will actually be filmed with me lecturing and like walking around and doing the teacher thing. It'll be an interesting experiment to see if I can do it as good as I once did. So that's what's to come, ideally in the next week or so. And then until then, I'm excited to start this journey with everyone. I appreciate you all listening to my long ramble here, but I think it was a good starting point. And let's see where it goes from here. So take care to everybody. And I don't know how to end videos yet, so that's another thing I have to learn.